at tops. I'm also a very keen runner myself, and given so many of us are turning to running at the moment for our daily form of exercise, I just thought I'd share a couple of tips just to help you get the most out of your runs, and also just to help avoid any injuries. So I think the first thing to remember is that running is all about efficiency. So we want to move from A to B using as little energy as possible, as that in theory then means that we either have more energy to run further or to run for longer. So in order to achieve that, the best running style or running gait in more technical terms is to try and get the foot, so when we're landing that, we want the foot to land underneath the hip, and the part of the foot that should be contacting the floor is right on what we call the ball of the foot. So in order to get that foot around and to get that foot underneath the hip, we want to try and think about drawing a circle with the ball of the foot, as that then allows you to lift that knee up a little bit higher, and then you can cycle that leg through nice and easily. So if we're a bit more slumped down into our hips, into our posture, particularly if you spent a day at the desk, for example, and you're just a bit stiff or a bit tight into your lower back or into the front of your hips, we tend to sit back a little bit more. We then find it harder to get that foot underneath the hip. And one of the common problems I often see in clinic is the placement of the foot too far in front of the hips. So that in theory then means that you're basically just putting the brakes on. So as you swing that leg through, if your foot striking the floor right in front of you, you're almost putting the brake on, and then having to really work hard to push yourself back onto the next step. Whereas if you can land that foot underneath the hip, you're just in a much better position then to utilise that energy and then take your next step. So I don't really want to get too complicated with all of this, but I think the biggest things to remember are just trying to think about keeping nice and upright, staying relaxed, because again, if we're quite tense and quite tight when we're running, our shoulders are lifted, our chest is rounded, we're wasting a lot of energy into our upper body, and also restricting the amount of oxygen that we can then get into the lungs, which obviously then helps to pump around to the muscles in the body. So I think the biggest thing to remember is just trying to maintain that nice upright, relaxed position. So really try and think about that length, lifting your head up nice and high, keeping the shoulders nice and wide, your chest lifted, so that you can fully expand the ribs to get that air into your lungs. And then with that, you will find it much easier to get that foot around and underneath the hips. So the other thing that I quite like to do before I go out for a run is to roll my foot onto one of these, so the spiky balls. If you don't have one of these at home, a tennis ball, golf ball, tin of beans, something like that, anything really, because it just helps just to break up any tension you might have around that foot and ankle, and just doing some nice long strokes, so popping the ball at the top of your foot and then just slightly pressing down and just rolling your foot all the way towards your heel and then dragging that ball back towards you. So just waking up all of the receptors around the foot, and just loosening off any tightness or any tension you might have around that foot and ankle. And then what I generally find is that once you've done this for 40 to 60 seconds, obviously on both feet, your sense of position or a sense of where your foot is contacting the ground is a lot better. So then you can really feel whether you're landing more on the ball of your foot or whether you're landing more on your heel. Another good way to check that is to have a look at your trainer. So have a look where the wear is. You know, if you've got a lot more wear down onto your heel, could be suggestive that you're definitely more heel striking when you're out running. Whereas if you're landing more on the ball of your foot, you might have more wear here or potentially even onto the outside of your trainer. If you do have any questions or you want us to have a look at your running style, I'm more than happy to answer any emails. One thing you could do perhaps is film yourself or get someone to film you out running, just 100 meters or so, and then send it across and we can give you any pointers that might be needed. But otherwise, I think the biggest things to remember are just to enjoy your run. Really try and stay as relaxed as you can, keep that nice upright posture, keep the shoulders relaxed and nice and open. And I wouldn't go out for a run and think about I must land on the ball of my foot all the time. Just try and think about that sporadically, so just doing it for say 20 seconds. Spend 20 seconds just trying to think about how you're landing on your foot and then carry on with your run. And then again, maybe when you get to a gate or something, you then spend another 20 seconds just thinking about where you're running on the foot. And